Hi everyone, welcome back to this week's Mindset Shift. I just wanted to check in. How did your week go? Were you able to play a few more cards, or were you able to pick which ones you wanted to let go of? Well, either way, I hope it was filled with some ing. This week, we're going to talk all about the power of connection over control. What do I mean by that actually? Well, let's just jump right in. So connection is the relationship with someone or something or an idea, whereas control is something that we're trying to direct. We're trying to direct a behavior or a thought or an idea or the way that the day is going to go. All good things if it's your day and your thoughts and your actions. Where we get into trouble is when we are trying to direct other people's actions or thoughts or day. And where does this come up? This pretty much comes up everywhere in every relationship we're probably in, whether that's a relationship with our child, our parent, our coworkers, our spouse. This can happen teachers to students. This can happen siblings. This can happen with fellow friends. It really is just this piece of interacting with each other that control or the need for control can arise. And where does it actually come from? Well, control comes from feeling that need that we talk about all the time to have certainty. And a lot of times people who tend to want more control are actually trying to soothe their own needs of maybe anxiousness or feeling like it's not going to go right if I don't do or say what I think needs to happen. And so that's where we need to pause for a second, because again, if it's your need and it's only affecting you, then absolutely by all means, you have to take control of those thoughts, those actions, the ways that you interpret things, how you engage, the amount of effort you put in, your attitude, all things that can be controlled by you. Now, however, what we can't control is other people's actions, their thoughts, the way that they are going to put forth effort, their approach to something, how they respond. Essentially, we cannot control other people's results or the results of what happens when we say or do something and how it lands for others. And so another fun phrase to share with you is let it land. There's a lot of freedom in that. Let it land. And when we let it land, whether that's their need or our need, then that's when we can start to work together and figure out how do we create the win-win. And that's really the goal today, is when working with other people in relationships, whether that's a professional setting or a personal setting, we want to be able to take into account that they have needs and we have needs. And when we are in relationship with others versus trying to be rigid or result oriented, we can actually create a more comfortable space for all of us to exist in. And that then creates the win. And it really allows people to be more authentic with one another. Now, sharing needs, as we've shared in the past, is a little tricky. Sometimes we don't even know what our need is, or how to say it, or to even feel courageous enough to share it. And so that's the other part of this, is being able to ask yourself, what is your need? But then also be willing to listen to what somebody else's need is as well. So I have an analogy for you. So in this hand, I have some water. And if I just keep this hand held like this, will the water stay? Yes, it will, because it'll just be sitting here nicely. Now, if I decide that it needs to stay there and I get very attached to this idea that the water needs to stay in my hand, and I also get fearful, so if I get attached and full of fear that the water is going to fall out, what do you think is going to happen to my hand? I'm probably going to try to hold on to it tighter, right? And sometimes when we're working with other people, kids, adults, or we're on a trip, we get pretty attached to an idea of what we think needs to happen or how it needs to look. And when we get too attached, we get tighter and tighter, right? And then when my hand gets too tight and I start to squeeze because I'm fearful and attached to this water, my idea or vision or, thought that I think needs to power over, what happens? Now I've squeezed my hand shut, and where do you think the water went? The water all fell out because it can't stay in there comfortably anymore. And that's what happens when we attach too tightly to something, someone, an idea, a thought, a vision of what we think the day needs to look like. We end up letting what's really important to us slip right out, and ultimately we lose control over it in the long run. And so if the whole goal is to stay connected, it would be better if we just allowed that water or person or feeling or thought to just land right here. And it's okay that it might be different from ours. So moving forward, this week, my challenge for all of you is just to become aware. What might be something that you need to let land? What could be something you let go of in forms of control? What could you control? That's all yours, that it doesn't impact anybody else, and that it's just you, and you can dictate where that goes or direct where it goes. But ultimately, how might letting go of some of that control and focusing more on the connection you have with other people, so that relationship or that bond benefit all of you? All right, I hope you guys have a great week. I hope this mindset shift was a gift. See you next week.